Hello guys, what is going on? My name is Josh here for the MUTCast. This is our second episode, so thank you everyone that has stuck with us after the first one. This episode is taking place on August 14th, so this is officially the first episode after Madden 19 launched. So many of you that have checked out the first episode, we did a lot of speculation, a lot of the videos that were out there, a lot of the news that was out there, but there wasn't anything officially out there with Madden 19 because it hadn't officially launched with the early EA access. EA Access came out, I believe, on August 2nd. The Hall of Fame edition came out on the 7th, and the regular edition came out on the 10th. So everyone at this point that has the game has had a chance to play, whether or not you had that EA Access or the standard edition. Everyone has got at least a weekend to play. And definitely a lot to get into. So, I'll start with the format for the next 5 weeks is we're going to cover a few different topics. So today we'll cover the launch and the promos. We'll be talking about game modes, I believe next week, gameplay. And game modes, and by game modes I mean, we'll be talking about the MUT salary cap, that has gone to become all Madden for all levels, as well as, MUT drafts, solo battles, we'll touch on solos as well as normal head-to-head. Solos and head-to-head haven't changed much, but certainly solo battles and solo squads are new this year. So we'll definitely touch on that. Gameplay, obviously, that will just be based upon everything that's come out. I know there's a lot of talk about the run game, about how some zones are broken and it's easy to defeat things like cover 4 and cover 3. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about roster building in the week after that. And then finally power-ups and training. So we'll touch on that. Obviously that's a big subject, a big new subject for this year. And my guess is with a lot of these, especially roster building, in the launch and promos, we're going to be touching on power-ups as well. We'll get into them very deep in the 5th week, but we will touch on those. These are going to be pre-recorded, so if you do hear, if I'm talking about power-ups and you're like, wait, well, hold on, this guy's a power-up, or, this promo just came out, these are going to be pre-recorded all in August, and they're going to be releasing up until September, the second week in September. So after that, we'll get back to the normal format that you may be used to in other podcasts and YouTube videos. We'll touch on Team of the Week, assuming that's coming back. I'm assuming it is, but Team of the Week, any new promos that came out, and anything that is happening week to week. So for today, we'll just focus on the things at launch. And we'll touch on a few of those subjects, but mostly we're gonna talk about the launch and the promos that have happened as of launch and as of the 14th. So if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. Actually, I would encourage you to subscribe for updates. You can follow Gecko Gaming. That is what the MUTCast is under. And it really would be helpful if you leave a 5-star review. That's iTunes, that's how they rank things, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. It's really helpful to get those 5-star reviews because that really helps us stand out, and there aren't many Madden podcasts, especially MUT podcasts, but you'd be surprised how many shows there are in the iTunes store. So definitely, if you like the show, rate it 5 stars if you want to see it again. If not, let us know why, and we'd love to make this something that's an open forum. So feel free at the end of the episode, I'm going to ask for people to submit questions as well, so you can submit questions. I'll leave a link in the description, but it is the email is going to be Gecko Gaming, so GECKO gaming06@gmail.com. And if you do want to be a guest host, I'm going to have a few hosts, hopefully, by the end of the 5 weeks and over the course of the year. But if you do want to be a guest host or you have a YouTube channel to promote, definitely get in contact with me because I am looking for some of those opportunities. So we'll get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the Hall of Fame players that came out. If you got the Hall of Fame edition, then you obviously got one of these players. You could pick out a Rod Woodson, Terrell Davis, Terrell Owens, Dan Marino, or Brian Urlacher. I don't know that many people have picked Urlacher. And I don't know how many people have actually picked Terrell Owens as well. I would guess that there's a lot of people that have picked Terrell Owens just because of the star power. Especially because he's on the Cowboys, at least in the cover he is. But there is your team captains. You get to pick between Michael Strahan, Ray Lewis, and Jerry Rice. I might be leaving out one there, but because the fact that you have Jerry Rice as a team captain, and you have Ray Lewis as well as the MUTCast Shazier. That's really going to cut down on how many people actually want to take Brian Urlacher. If you're a Bears fan, obviously, it's no option at all. You're definitely going to take Brian Urlacher. But for those out there that are not Bears fans, it's going to be a tough choice. If you want a middle linebacker, there's a bunch of different options. You're going to eventually have that Shazier, hopefully, if you're playing the game enough, up to a 95 overall. And from I believe, the Sean Taylor last year upgraded from a 95 to, I think a 97 was the last, and then maybe a 99 at the end. But the Sean Taylor was upgradable throughout the year once you acquired him. So, thinking about Ryan Shazier, he's probably, once you get him close to that 90 overall range, is really going to bottleneck your linebackers, your middle linebackers, that is. So, I think there's a lot of people, there's in the community there a little angry about the sets. There was an article released on Muthead. If you don't know Muthead, I'd definitely check it out. Muthead.com is, where if you're away from your Xbox, you can get all the ratings on all the players. There's a great forum and great community there. So I would check that out. There's a lot of anger around the sets, and they had on Muthead, they had a article about all of the sets in order to upgrade your Hall of Fame player from an 85 to 90. And it's going to take a lot of 77 overall, quote unquote, Hall of Fame players. That's basically the lowest tier of Hall of Fame players. You can get them through solos, through packs, obviously on the auction block, if they are auctionable. So there is a $8,000 coin pack that has a non-auctionable 77 overall. So, this is going to take a lot of time. I think a lot of people were looking to upgrade their Hall of Fame player right up to a 90 right out of the gate. It seems like that would be insane for EA to let people do that. But, there's a lot of people that really wanted to get going and get their player up to a 90. Supposedly these players are going to be upgradable throughout the year past 90. You can take that with a grain of salt if you want. I know EA has changed some of their promotions over the past years, but supposedly this player is going to be upgradable past 90 overall. So, I think this is, really, it's like MUTCast. I think a lot of people are looking to have that 90 to 95 Shazier almost right out of the gate. I think the thing is, it's August 14th. The game came out August 10th. Obviously, if you had a earlier edition, it came out a little bit earlier. But we're not even a half a month from EA access into the Madden season. So it's gonna happen, and these things are a grind. Hall of Fame players, the MUTCast. But the thing is, I think that it's at a great position where it's gonna take some time to actually upgrade your player, but that's not a bad thing. For me, I was looking at Rod Woodson, the 90 overall Rod Woodson. He is a player that I picked, and his 90 overall version is 89 man, 89 zone. And, obviously there are players that have very high man or zone. No one, I think, has man or zone that are both that high. But, in order to have a player like that day one, that's, and for everyone to have that type of player, that really shuts down one side of the field. If you take a look at some of these route running for some of these players, some of the wide receivers, it's not very high. I mean, like, mostly you're looking at some of the best route running is 80s for some players. I think that I was looking at Randy Moss, the 79 overall power up Randy Moss, and he doesn't even have any ratings. The best rating is his deep route running, and that's at 79. So, he doesn't have anything over 80. Having a guy like Rod Woodson day one is really going to shut down an entire side of the field. And it's, something that I don't know that would be fun. I think a lot of people assume that, it'd be great to have this 90 overall, but it's not going to be that fun, going into the game and having someone that good that early. Now, you may be lucky. You may have pulled like a Jalen Ramsey, or you may have completed a set at this point, and you have him. But you're one of the very few rare people that have him, and you probably sacrificed part of your team to be able to get him. So, I think a lot of people see the fact that you have to pull packs and you have to complete these sets as something that looks like a bottleneck. And I don't know that these players are going to be that rare. There's 31 solos for the Hall of Fame players, and you get, I think it's 2 players each for the solo sequences, and there's a daily solo as well. So every single day and this is the way the GOATs worked, but every single day, probably about for a month and a half, they'll have solos out that will allow you to get one of these players. I think, this is something, again, take it slow. The other thing is to upgrade them from 80 to 85. It takes a lot of training. So I was taking a look at, for the team captains, in order to upgrade Jerry Rice from a 75 to a 90 overall, completely possible day one, it's going to take about 2,200 training. So I mentioned that we'll touch on power-ups and training a little bit in the videos, and we'll get into that more in the power-up training podcast. But, just in terms of these day one promos, these are things that are going to be very tough to do. I think the highest I've seen in some YouTube video is someone that had a Ray Lewis that was an 88 overall. And that's really going to cut into, if you're a huge Ravens fan, let's say you're a huge 49ers fan, also, kudos to you. You can have both Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens. So great passing game to start off day one if you want. But, it's going to take a lot I think the thing is, like, people saw training and they thought this is something that's really going to allow you to upgrade players very, very quickly. And it's not that prevalent. I mean, there's a solo sequence, there's a training camp, a couple of solo sequences to open up the year, and you get 50 points and 80 points in one of them, and there's a weekly one that I think you can maybe get another 50. But this is going to be a grind, and to be able to upgrade someone 2,000 training points, I don't even know at this point if I've acquired 2,000 training points over the whole course of what I've used and what I have right now. So, this is, it's going to happen. Your Jerry Rice or your Terrell Owens or your Rod Woodson or whatever it might be, you're going to have the opportunity to upgrade them from, in terms of Hall of Fame players, from an 80 to 85, and in terms of the captains, from a 75 all the way up to a 90, without doing sets for the captains, which is nice. But it's going to take some training, and you're going to need to figure out what you're going to want to do, because a lot of these power players, for example, Randy Moss, have a few different teams that you can put them on. So it's really going to be strategic in the way that you want to use your power-ups. You might want to upgrade a guy at a position that you don't have that much depth at, but he may not be playing for your favorite team. So that's really going to take away from their team chemistries. We'll talk about the team chemistries more in the roster building. But for now, just keep that in mind. The Hall of Fame players, the team captains, they're a grind. They're not meant to be done week one. And I definitely think it's great that, there's an 80 overall player, but I would say think of it in terms of Shazier. This is something that you're working on for a while. By the time that you finish your Hall of Fame player, he's probably going to be much higher than Shazier. So, this is something that's almost like an early MUT master, if you could think of it that way. Same thing for the team captain. And if you have him at different positions, especially if you don't have the Brian Urlacher, you're talking about possibly like a cornerback, a middle linebacker, and a wide receiver, or whatever it might be, that, 3 key positions, 3 skilled positions that you kind of have knocked out early in MUT, and you have guys that are good, and positions are, you kind of have guys slotted for. So, again, we'll talk about the team building a little bit later, as well as the power-ups, but I want to move on to the team diamonds. And this is something that we got a lot of information on before the launch of Madden 19. So there were a lot of videos out there. I'm sure you've seen them at this point. If you've listened to this podcast, you've probably seen a video with the team diamonds. There are a few that are 92, ranging all the way down to 88. So, and that's really going to depend on, for example, the Bills, I think, has been a pretty popular set because it's pretty easy they give you coin rewards for each set. And the coin rewards for the Bills is a good amount of coins. It's not going to cost that many elites, and you get a 88 overall Tre'Davious White. He's very athletic, got good cover skills, and even though he's 88 compared to a 92, you get a decent amount of coin return for just completing his set. And there's, again, as I mentioned, there's not as many elite Buffalo Bills. So that's not a dig at the Bills. I'm just saying, you can look at some of those sets. Bengals might be the same way. You can look at some of those sets that don't have as many elites. Now, you're probably going to be getting I haven't matched it up, but, you're going to be getting a less overall. So, for example, the Patriots have a lot of elite players. There's a bunch of them that are 80, 81, but at the same time, they have a lot of elite players. So you're getting a 92 overall player in Tom Brady, but you're also having to go out and buy Gronk and Brady, which I think combined are at least $450,000, and Tom Brady right now goes for about $500K last time I checked. So you're definitely losing money on that set. I think that set only gives you 21,000 coins. So there really isn't a huge incentive to go after that 92 overall right now. So, honestly, I think this is again, a really good set. It's not something that's done, going to be done day one. I would, unless you're lucky and you get a lot of the Buffalo Bills that you need, it might be something you want to hold off for the first couple of weeks, unless you're a huge fan of the team. Really love the set, though. This is something that, I think a lot of people didn't like the team leaders. There was complaints about the team leaders. Before that, there were, each team, there's like the man of the month sets or whatever it is. The man of the month is what you got, but, each team had their own set, and then you put those collectibles into the man of the month. That was 2 years ago. So this is the equivalent of that, or the team leaders last year. And definitely seems like a great set. You get it's a ×3 for each team that you for example, Tom Brady or Tre'Davious White is ×3 Patriots or ×3 Bills, depending on which team they're playing for. So it gives you a boost on the team. And again, we'll touch on that in the roster building, but the great thing about these chemistries is they're not useless. Last year is awareness and play rec. Like, okay, well, that's great. And yeah, I mean, I want 99 play rec so that my guy doesn't get faked out by a screen or by a, draw or whatever it might be. But this year, you're looking at the first couple levels are like strength and, acceleration. But I think level 5 is speed. You get, I think you can upgrade your, if you get 50 players from a team, which is somewhat impossible, you can upgrade your team speed by 3 for everyone that's playing for that team. So there's definitely some good, acceleration is not bad. There's I think jumping as well, which will help us with spectacular catches and especially if you're a user linebacker. But I think team chemistries are really going to be huge this year, especially with the way that they redid the roster. So again, touching on that, we'll move on to the flashbacks at this point. Flashbacks is something that they obviously got from the past couple of years. Flashbacks have been very popular. And they actually released these, I believe, before, like during EA Access or during the Hall of Fame edition. So there was already a set when the standard edition dropped on August 10th. They released a new set just yesterday. And all those players, I was looking at all 5 players, Darius Slay, there's a couple other ones in there, and they are all power-ups. So if you are getting into power-ups this early in the year and you're wondering, should I invest the money in the power-ups that were a complete disaster last year, or at least most people thought so, a complete disaster last year, and, really coin sink. Now you can roll back your team training. So this year you'll lose some of the team training, but let's say that you get a guy up past his core elite and you get like an 85 overall and you upgrade him to 86 with this power up. You'll get that 85 back overall that you can auction if it was auctionable before. And you also get, if you power him back down to a 68, you'll be able to sell that 68 and you'll also get part of the training back. The big thing about the flashbacks for me is that, does this signal that a lot of these players are going to be highlighted? It looks like, there's a huge push early on, at least, to get some of these power-up players out there. We'll talk about the heavyweights promo next, but, all 5 flashback players, and it really takes some thought. It's almost like that can't happen by accident, at least for me. I feel like it can't happen by accident, but all 5 of these players are able to be powered up. So, I wonder if that's EA sending a signal saying this is something, power-ups are good to invest in, because obviously those 68s, as each set comes out, those 68 overall base power-ups, if you can call them that, are going to go up in price. So, for example, Landon Collins, his set came out before Madden launched, but his power up, I'm not sure he has one, but we'll use Darius Slay as an example. So Darius Slay, his power up at 68, I'm sure jumped, as soon as that flashback set came out. Gilmore, so for example, Gilmore came out before he came out with Landon Collins. As soon as his flashback was announced, that stayed pretty high in price. So these cards, you already know that there's a upgrade on their base elite, are really starting to increase for those 68 overalls, because it really doesn't, in terms of training, once you get up to that core elite and you put in that core elite, you could go straight to, all you need is the next card. So you don't need any training at all. Now, the next card may be expensive, especially if it's a flashback, but the good news is you don't need any more training at that point. So you're really going to see some of those cards jump as sets get announced, even though the 68 overalls. So it might be a good choice to stockpile some of those in the beginning of MUT. The next promo, this is a brand new one. Same thing as Team Diamonds, except that there's not the It's not like a whole program, it seems like. Is the heavyweights. So again, same as the flashbacks. Flashbacks and heavyweights came out about the same time before launch. But the heavyweights are what it is. It's a set that only includes defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and for some reason fullbacks. Now, the reason I think that it includes defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and fullbacks is I don't know if I touched on Team of the Week at the beginning of the podcast. I don't know if they're going to have Team of the Week the same way they did last year. So those of you that are not familiar with last year, they had an entire team, every single position. So left tackle, left guard, center, you get the idea. The entire team, offense and defense, down to the fullback, down to, they might have had 2 wide receivers, but essentially they had, the entire team. Even if you didn't have a guy that was, a superstar at that position, you might have a defensive tackle that got 2 run stuffs. You're probably going to get Aaron Donald, a lot of weeks, but it's not like they're going to constantly upgrade him. So you might get a 74 overall. He used to be a silver. Now they're putting out a 74 overall gold card, to be able to upgrade to an elite card, to be able to upgrade to the hero. They may not do that the same way this year. There's a lot of feedback that people did not like the entire team. They thought everyone except for the hero, and sometimes the hero was kind of just a throwaway card. So the reason that I think this set is very good, and also another signal sent by EA early in the year. Of course, we'll see how these all shape up a year out. A month or 2 out. But the reason I think this set is great is because there is a new heavyweights group that came out today. And for example, one of the heavyweights was Jarrell Casey. So Jarrell Casey already has a power up. He has a base 85, and he now has a heavyweights card at 89. So obviously, Jarrell Casey is a star. He may end up getting a Team of the Week card later on. But, a guy like Shaq Mason that just came out, you may not see another Shaq Mason. I think his original card is at 83. You may not see another Shaq Mason until the playoffs cards come out. So, and by the way, Shaq Mason is not a power-up. So not all the heavyweights that came out are power-ups. But I think 3 out of 4 of them are. So Jason Peters, and there's 2 others. I can't remember exactly who, but the reason I think this is good is you'll see guys like maybe Kyle Juszczyk, Patrick, what's the guy he played for the Falcons, Patrick DeMarco, James Devlin, those fullbacks as well that are definitely really good fullbacks, but they may get like 3 catches for 30 yards. They may get like a rusher, the team to rush for 130 yards, but they got like 1 carry for 2 yards. So it's not like they're going to get a Team of the Week. And the same thing for linemen. It's very tough to quantify that. A quarterback doesn't get sacked, and they rush on his side for 50 out of the 100 yards for that game, or 75 for the 100 yards out of that game. It's very tough to quantify offensive linemen in Team of the Week cards. So if you are looking to power up cards, and if you are, sort of anxious about, I don't know if these guys are going to get, this, there may be a few guys that get most feared cards that come out. They maybe have like a lot of strength, so they get most feared strength. I know last year was most feared strength, height, and speed. So if you have a guy that's very tall, like a Nate Solder, he may get like a most feared tall, which he did last year. So he'll get an upgrade. Again, Nate Solder is not power up. And again, if you do want to see what cards are power up, what cards aren't, I suggest that you go to MUTCast and sort by power ups. They have a Madden 19 player tool in there. But these guys that, you're looking at, why exactly would I want to upgrade my left tackle? So, for example, there is a power-up pass that they give out at level 29. And there's not really that many options for players from 80 to 82. One of the options is Taylor Lewan. And, you're looking at it and you're like, well, how do I want to use this thing for a left tackle? The reason is this heavyweight set. Is it looks like EA is going to make a conscious effort to make sure that linemen as well as fullbacks, those positions that are quote unquote unskilled, are going to get upgrades throughout the year. So that's my thoughts. I think that, if you're thinking about a defensive tackle, a big lineman like Jarrell Casey, that's not like a JJ Watt or a Khalil Mack, or even an Aaron Donald, this set really helps signal that you may be okay to go ahead and try those power-ups. So again, we'll just touch on the power-ups. I know we're touching on all the subjects here. But yeah, I think that overall, the launch of Madden really has been pretty successful. I think that a lot of people have said the solo battles are really fun. They haven't really released how to get a better ranking in the solo battles, which I don't think that they should. I think people are going to sort of figure it out in their own way. They're going to do their best and sort of manipulate different ways that they're going to win and figure out what works best for them. But that as soon as they sort of release too much information, people are going to be intentionally taking advantage of that information. And not everyone actually follows Madden on Twitter, or whatever it might be. I don't think they have an Instagram, but whatever it might be, not everyone gets those announcements. So it's really unfair to a lot of people. They're really trying to be on a level playing field. So I think that it's really been successful. So again, we'll touch on solo battles in the gameplay, in the game mode section. But in terms of gameplay, I think that, the running, the one cut, it is tough to get used to. I've tried to just field punts, essentially just so I can do the one cut and practice it. Even if I should just fair catch it or, let it bounce in the end zone. It's tough. It's a little tough to get used to, I won't lie. And spinning and juking, is not, now, of course, I haven't been using the best running back right now, but spinning and juking is not as powerful as it was before. So I think the one cut, the meta is really going to be who is going to figure out the one cut. I think that Powers is still king, or if not king, Prince. There's a lot of trucking still in the game. So those guys that are strong, that are heavy, or at least weigh a lot, and have high trucking are really gonna be able to make some moves in the open field. But I really like it. I think that a lot of people got to get used to the one cut. Those that do are going to separate themselves, and that's really what it's about. And I think that eventually people will start to figure out one of the big things is not holding the turbo in the backfield. As a running back, if you're playing real football, that's not something you don't want to just speed into the line anyway. So I think it's going to be really tough, because a lot of us, including myself, have really adjusted to that's the best way to run. It's just hit the hole as quickly as possible. That's not the way it works this year. So I would encourage you to go into practice mode, field punts, whatever it might be, and try the one cut. I think you'll find it's pretty fun. So I'm still haven't got there yet, but I'm finding it's a little fun to be able to figure it out. It makes cutback lanes a lot easier. Again, I think it's been really successful. I just want to remind you guys, next week we're going to be coming out. We're going to be talking about the game modes, especially the new game modes. So obviously everyone's used to the MUT drafts at this point. Everyone's used to the typical head-to-head. They're bringing back. They're going to bring back the weekend league as well. But I'll be talking about the new modes, so solo battles, especially the squad solos. So you can play with 3 of your friends and play against the computer rather than against someone else. And after that, we'll be talking about gameplay. The week after that, roster building and power-ups, as well as training. Again, if you guys have not subscribed, I would encourage you to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter just to get the most recent updates. And we will be coming out with a video next week on game modes. So again, thank you for listening. Rate us 5 stars, and I will see you guys again next week.